Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Koster, and I do not have an iPhone. And I was going to get one in New York, but I almost brought a picture of it. I took a look at the line in Soho around the corner, and I thought that's something I don't do. And I said, I'll get an iPhone one of these days, and I don't have one yet. So I still have a free phone that's probably fallen in the toilet twice and is just horrible, but still works, and one day I'll get one. So I cannot do this iPhone stuff that you guys are doing. I'm probably the least technically geek person here. I'm a photographer, and when I was invited to come here, I almost talked Miriam out of it because I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like I looked at the website and it said, if you're not a geek or a technical or something, get off the stage. And I had these visions of like getting tomatoes thrown at me and all this stuff. I was like, are you sure? And so they said, yes, I'm sure. So here I am to tell you about SalaamGarage, which is something that I founded. But in order for you to understand SalaamGarage, I felt, instead of giving you like my mission statement and just what I've done, I thought that would be boring and I'd probably trip over my mission statement anyway. I'll explain to you why I created SalaamGarage and how it actually came about instead. So, and I'll explain the weird name too. Like I said, I'm a photographer. That's what I do for work. I'm a magazine photographer and I'm an advertising photographer. That's what I do for money. But all along the way, I've been doing social documentary photography, which is basically working with humanitarian organizations around the world and doing social documentary projects and then coming back here and exhibiting them, getting them published in more traditional ways, like exhibiting them in galleries and cafes and different things like that, until now. So let me show you, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my career and why SalaamGarage exists. So. Okay, I'm seriously never even used a remote control thing like this. Okay, how my career started was I actually studied anthropology, and I thought that being a photographer would make me a better anthropologist, and so I thought it would be like a good marketing thing. But then I took a few photography classes, and I fell in love with it, and I just said screw it to anthropology, and I went down the road of becoming a photographer. So in '93, I went to East Africa, and I was backpacking around. And I was invited by a friend of mine who's Ethiopian. And so we went, but she came about 7 days later. And so I arrived alone, and the only way I could get to her grandmother's house was with written directions to her grandmother's house. And now the written directions were actually I was in Eritrea, were in Tigrinya, and I cannot read Tigrinya, probably nobody here can, and I don't even know if it's backwards or upside down. So I handed that to the cab driver. And the cab driver we drove all over Asmara, which is the capital of Eritrea, and this cab driver handed me the directions back, and I'm sure in his language he said, you're crazy, what are you doing here? I can't read this, and I don't know what to do with you. And so I took it back, and I said, I just looked at it like, what am I going to do? But there was only 2 words in English on it that I could read, and they were SalaamGarage. And so I said to the cab driver, I said, well, SalaamGarage? And he goes, oh, SalaamGarage. And we were like there in 5 seconds. And the grandmother was standing there waiting for me. And I'm like, what is this SalaamGarage? Oh, grandma lives next to a garage called SalaamGarage. And it was like this car auto mechanic shop. But the name stuck with me, and I thought it was cool. So when it came time to name what is now SalaamGarage, I came up with all these markety names that I thought were so lame. And then I just said, forget it, I'll just call it SalaamGarage. So anyway, this is me in East Africa backpacking around, and I took a lot of pictures back then, and about 10% of them came out. I didn't know what I was doing with photography. This is film. I opened the camera, the film was in the back and ruined everything. But this one picture did come out, and this is a boy in Ethiopia, and this picture definitely changed the course of my career and maybe my life forever. It wasn't taking it wasn't the interaction with this boy. It was coming back to the United States and showing people pictures of Ethiopians, and the reaction that somebody had was, a couple people had were, well, are you really sure that you were in Ethiopia? Are you positive? Because he's not starving to death. And I was really shocked. I was like, yes, I'm sure I was in Ethiopia. I had to get a visa, and yes, I'm quite sure I was in Ethiopia. And I'm quite sure that this picture was taken there. And it was just in that moment I realized, my God, what would happen right now if I didn't have his picture? Like, what would this conversation be like? Because he's picturing some of the pictures he had seen up till that point, but he hasn't seen anything else since in 93. There wasn't a lot of pictures out of Ethiopia readily available, except for one particular photographer who showed the famine in Ethiopia. So as I was in that moment thinking, this is it, this is what I'm going to do with photography, and this is what I want to do. I want to use pictures to tell stories. So that's this picture. That's why this picture, I include it. Then I went to India, and I was backpacking around India and taking pictures and all that kind of stuff. But first before I show you pictures of that, I want to show you this one picture that I call drive-by shootings, which is this. This isn't me, but it might as well be. This is a friend of mine, Danny, who I met traveling. I took the same picture, and this was me going around India, just walking around taking pictures of cool stuff. And it was the weirdest thing, we were taking pictures, and I thought it was, oh, this is cool, this is exotic. Here's some kid. Let me take a picture of him. And then that's Grandma. Is there really a thingy on this? Pointer? No. Anyway, that's Grandma on the left. You just push. Oh, it's that. Wouldn't it be cool if it was connected to this? That's all right. That's Grandma on the left. And Grandma went up and pushed him a little bit more forward and said, blah, 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 rupees, rupees, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, I'm really uncomfortable. Rupees is money. And I was super uncomfortable. And I thought to myself, what is the point of this scenario? Why am I taking these pictures? For what? So I just remember walking away thinking, I don't want to have that experience again. If you can see in the boy's face, he's not, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not exactly sure what, but there is a dialogue, an unspoken dialogue going on there, and it's not very pretty to me, and not very useful. So then, now I look at these and I'm just like, oh, these are really great pictures. I like them. This is me going around in India taking all these pictures, great. I don't know his name or anything, but this is India. Oh, hold on. So then I came home and I showed people all these pretty pictures, and that was great, and then I had photo exhibitions and everything. But I just felt like, well, people asked me questions. I couldn't answer the questions. I didn't know who I couldn't remember what town. Well, I can remember what town. Most photographers remember exactly where they took every single picture. But I didn't know people's names. I didn't know what kind of fish those were. I didn't know a lot of stuff. But by golly, I took those pictures in India, and wow, that was fun. So I learned a lot from that, and definitely from that drive-by shooting scenario. So, but something was bothering me. I did have that anthropology background. I did actually go and graduate with that degree, and still not really quite sure what the point of school is myself. But I did graduate with that degree, and I still wanted to use it and explore photography and get a little deeper in and kind of mix them together. And so I had an opportunity to go to Brazil. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go to Brazil. My boyfriend at the time was doing some conference down there, and so I'm like, let me tag along, let me go to Brazil. But this time, let me hook up with an organization, or let me do something where the pictures are actually going to serve a purpose rather than me looking cool and looking like this really cool adventurer backpacker and taking really cool pictures and being in a cool gallery and all that stuff. Let me take some pictures that might actually do some good. So I hooked up. At that time, I'd built my magazine photography career quite a bit, and I was living on the East Coast, so I hooked up with somebody at Doctors Without Borders, and I said, I'm going to Brazil. Do you have any kind of organization or something like that going on down there? And they said, yes, in the favelas of Rio, the favelas or the slums. We do. We have a project where we don't have any photos yet. And so I totally, at this point, I've self-funded all my projects and everything, and I did also self-fund Brazil. And I also raised funds and stuff like that, and I'll talk about that. So I hooked up with Doctors Without Borders, went down there. They set me up with a translator. They set me up with transportation and all that. And so now, does everyone know what an NGO is? Yep. Does anyone not know what an NGO is? If you raise your hand, because I'm going to use that word a lot. Okay, this is a definition. And this I got out of Wikipedia, and essentially, to boil it down, it's kind of like Doctors Without Borders is an NGO, Red Cross is like an NGO, and for every gigantic NGO, there's tiny little ones like Beth was talking about, like the little ones in Cambodia that you've most likely never heard of unless somebody gets up on stage and tells you about it. I think Bill Clinton said like the amount of NGO growth in the last 10 years is astronomical, just because there's so much more awareness now. So there's NGOs all over the world, and there's a lot of different ways to connect with them. So Doctors Without Borders is an NGO, and I went down there and I started that project. And so this is a collaboration with Doctors Without Borders in '99, and these are some of these pictures. And so then with this work, this is a pre and a postnatal health project, health facility in Rio. And so now with these images, I was actually able to not only share them with the NGO, with Doctors Without Borders, so they could use them in their publications and trainings and all kinds of stuff. I could actually talk about this particular place in Rio, in this favela, and say these women are here because they don't know anything about reproductive health, and they're massaging their bellies to understand what's going on with themselves being pregnant. So I actually could start to tell people what it was that was going on in my pictures, and then people learned things. And that felt better to me. That started to make more sense for me with my career. And they gave them housing. They used to be homeless people. They used to live under a bridge, and they made an agreement with Doctors Without Borders. If you live in these houses and you don't rent them and sell them, we will give you housing. So, and I know that that's Anna, and I know that that's her as a child, and she's telling me about her through a translator. And I know that that's his grandmother, and I know that she has health issues, and I know that they get free food from Doctors Without Borders and a local NGO. I know these are doctor's visits. I know that when people are really sick in this favela, they'll do a doctor's, like a house call, instead of this woman who can't make it to the office for whatever reason. And I learned a couple other things on this project. I learned to listen to local people. When I was in the favelas, I was walking around and they said, do not take any pictures. They said, just walk around with your camera. Don't take any pictures. Just let this foreigner, let them know there's a foreigner around with a camera that is here, and there's a presence here. And they put one and one together. They thought, okay, she'll probably be back to take pictures, and they might have said some stuff in Portuguese, but to not walk in there and start shooting, like crazy. And in my world, that would be like another drive-by shooting experience. And I also learned to be super transparent about my intentions, My intentions with Doctors Without Borders, my intentions with the people in the favelas, with the doctors, with everybody. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to work on this project with you, and that's it. Like, there's no hidden agenda here. So I learned that. I learned to walk around, not start shooting. And I also learned to listen to the local people. I was told don't take pictures of people between the ages of 16 to 30, of men between the ages of 16 to 30, because they're drug dealers and they have a gun, and they don't want to be in any kind of picture. So just don't do that. And I said, okay, don't worry. So, I learned a lot of stuff on that trip. And I also learned that when I make a connection with an NGO and I work and I do a lot of pre-production, a lot of communication in advance, I get access, I get access to things that none of you in this room could get access to if you just showed up in Rio. So then this is now 2004. I've done a lot of stuff in between, but I don't want to bore you with my career. But then in 2004, I was living in Kenya teaching photojournalism to kids, digital photojournalism to kids. And because I was there, an NGO, I was living in eastern Kenya, an NGO was in western Kenya, a very small NGO called Red Boar Village Project. They were newly founded, and they needed pictures of their NGO for all their marketing purposes and their website and all that. They had just founded themselves, or had just been founded, or whatever. And they said, we don't have, there's no budget to fly any photographer from here to there and take pictures and fly them back and all that. But since you're already in Kenya, it's feasible for us to fly you to Western Kenya, put you up and set up, so would you do this with us? Would you take pictures? And I said yes and no. I said, yes, I'll do it, and no, I won't just walk in there and take pictures. I said, and I talked to him a little bit about my experiences in the past, and I said, I'd be happy to do that, but we need to set it up way in advance. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to do a day in the life of people in the village. Now, this particular NGO, what they're targeting is HIV, AIDS, and poverty, and extreme poverty. So I said, I'm happy to work on that with you, but let's identify some people in the village who are willing to work with us, who are willing to share their stories, willing to be photographed, who represent the things that you're targeting, like AIDS, for example, AIDS orphans and widows and widowers and just in extreme poverty. And so we did that, and it was late night discussions, this is what I call pre-production, a lot of people calling in advance, figuring it out, emails, this and that, how is this gonna work, where am I gonna stay, how long, what does this mean to the people? And again, I was really transparent, it's gonna disrupt their day. And if somebody's not working, then we need to compensate them for that day that they've missed with work. Because everybody works on their farm and stuff like that. So they said, okay, I really like that idea, and we went with it. And it was a completely different project, if you can think about the India photos and this. So this is the project that we did. And so now I know this is Caxton, and I know that Caxton in this picture is 15, and he's the oldest living person, his entire lineage. Like, everybody else had died of AIDS, aunts, uncles, parents. Even the youngest sister was born infected, and she also passed away. So, and something else that was really important to me in these pictures in doing this project is that I didn't photograph AIDS. They introduced me to a lot of people that were dying and that were about to die, and I wouldn't take those pictures because I just didn't feel like it would do anybody any good. I didn't feel like we need to create any more of that content. I feel like if you want to see people that are sick and dying, there's plenty of that content out there, but there's not enough of this. There's not enough of, look, this is a family, the mother died. There's a monitor here in case you guys don't know, that's why I'm like pointing here. No? Yeah, there's this little guy here. He's saying yes, no, yes, no. So anyway, like, there's not enough of this. Okay, they lost their mother, but they're still together and they're happy and laughing. Like, I don't feel like there's enough of these pictures out there of just regular everyday people sharing their life. And I have I have so many stories I could tell you about all these pictures. But this is the project that I call AIDS is Knocking. And so at this point, what I was doing is I worked with the NGO, and I'll stick it on this one for now. I worked with the NGO and then started having exhibitions. So I started having the NGO was founded by a woman here who lives in Seattle, but she's from that particular village. She is Kenyan. So they have their board of directors here. So I had this team to work with. I had this production team. So I came back and we hung exhibitions. We had fundraisers. We did all this stuff. They used the media on their websites. There's a video that I'm going to show you. Oh, there's a video. So is this hooked up with audio also? No, it can be though, right? Okay. So I didn't bring you pictures of those exhibitions, but they're super powerful. And what just happened on the stage, a few minutes ago about raising funds, Caxton is now fine. Like, Caxton is definitely sponsored. He's going to be fine for school forever, and so is his sisters and brothers and the surrounding area because of this work, because of these exhibitions. I mean, I would have these exhibitions, and we would stand there and say, look, here's the real story. This is Caxton. He's great. He's surviving, and he needs help. He needs help, and it costs, $200 to send him to school per year. And I mean, it was just same thing happened. Like, funds were raised, just done. It was like a non-issue, like each person like giving $10, whatever. But it was at this point where I realized, like, every show I was hanging a picture and I was getting really tired of like me doing everything. It wasn't me doing everything. I had a lot of help, but it just felt like such a huge production to like hang all this stuff and do all this for a month and then go and hang out somewhere else. So I started, and that's when I started to become aware of like social media. Again, I'm like not this major tech person, so like I don't have an iPhone, right? So I discovered MySpace in like 2006, and so I started putting my videos and stuff like that and photos onto MySpace. Oh wait, how do I do? So I want to show you video also, and this I will be getting to SalaamGarage, don't worry. But this is a video also that I made there. Oh, that's not it. This is it. The play button. was also part of SalaamGarage.
My name is Koster. Ajay ni apar ngwen.
It's 14 years.
I went to Chulambo Primary School. To di puodho. Min mathin ni en odong ka loso dierot. Oloko sende. Agi moro ntie mi wamadho kwa di school. To loso to wamadho to di school. To ka onge to oloko loho gigo to wan kwase puodho to wabiro. Wedo kose to no pika to waloko rego to wadi school. Kwase ya puodho kinyi to wadhi school. Koro kwa duogo kasa biro gimoro ntie minyalo cham to wachamo to ka onge to modho pi to wadok. To koro mo godhiambo to kos ntie puothe moko monego mwakaoga. Koro wadhi to wapuro to dipo ka jogo miwa kata oduma mara koro kara mar ariyo kata achiel to wabiro to warego to mwachamo. Koro mo godhiambo to wadhi koro mo chieng' ngeso nawuok kinyi to adhi atiyo negi. To gimiya pesa. Tabiro to wariwo kamoro achiel to wanyiewo oduma gi chiemo to wachamo. Kamano. Gik mawacho ka winj maber.
Yani,
En mana no ka temo wanyalo konyo.
What is it that keeps you going? That gives you hope to keep going?
Gima chuna mondo miya atima tek kamano mondo miya kony nyithindwa gi. Kamano. Nyalo wacho ni ubiro mondo konyo. Koro kaponi wanyalo yudo ngima moro maber, to nyalo mako skul matek. Koro ok mi kata koro awuogi kata koro adhi gone ji amalo. Tasom matek. Do mi chieng' moro abe oneno.
Aido gari, tera we got, tera de nekisumo. Tokaido, tera kisumo, tera de nekisumo. Aido meli, tera wina, tera de nekisumo. Boda boda, soya kondele, tera de nekisumo. Anna duaro kenda, onge ngama tera. Anna duaro kenda, onge ngama tera. Bini dong te dala, bini dong te telo, bini dong oslep na bini dong jaturwa, bini dong te dala.
So there's a few things about that piece that are really important to me and that bleed right into SalaamGarage. And one is that you heard Caxton say, I just wish that people knew I exist, or something like that. And every single project I've done around the world, I hear that over and over. So it really matters to me that you guys know who he is now. It matters a lot, because I promised him. And also, when I do these projects, or when I did this project, AIDS is Knocking, I kept hearing all 11 million orphans, and it was starting to literally drive me crazy to hear all of these statistics and everything, because I have no concept of what 11 million is. And so that's another reason why I personally took on that project, is because I just wanted to know who one of those people were. I just wanted to talk to one person and hear, who are you? What are you of this 11 million, group of people? And so now you know what that means. And he's just a regular kid like every other kid, just facing a problem. So that was AIDS is Knocking. And so then this is when Amanda discovers social media. And I put all this stuff up on MySpace. And then I started playing around on MySpace, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff out here. And then I found YouTube and all that, and I said, there's a lot of content. There's a lot of bad content. I was like, there's a lot of crap. Like, there's people dancing around their underwear and like the stupid content. And I thought to myself, why can't what I do or stuff like I do, why can't that get infiltrated, like take over? It can't take over, but at least show up more. Like, why can't content that actually makes a freaking difference show up in all of this stuff? You know, like now it's unbelievable what we can do. It's unbelievable we can plug into all this. And you guys know more about, like, I don't even have Twitter yet. I just got Facebook like a few months ago, and I'm pretty psyched about it. But I thought to myself, well, why can't all this stuff show up in there? And like, why, you know, why do I don't have to take all these pictures. I won all these awards and did all this stuff for that. But it doesn't matter to Caxton. Like, it makes no difference. Like, you just saw what happened on the stage with Cambodia. And I didn't hear anybody, like, award-winning photographer or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? Like, all of you have the potential to go and make content that can make a difference. All of you. All of you, literally. You're all, there's, like, technology sitting in front of you. And it could do so much and so good for so many people. It doesn't matter that I'm taking the pictures. So I started thinking about that a lot, and then I started looking at all this Twitter and all this stuff, and I was like, well, or it wasn't Twitter back then, but whatever, Flickr. And I started putting my stuff up on Flickr. And then I also taught for a long time, so when I teach here and there. And a lot of people kept saying to me, Amanda, can I come with you? Can I come with you on your trip? And I kept saying, no, it doesn't make sense to have like a barrage of people on, you know, Caxton, like with all this stuff hanging around their necks, like cameras and all that. But because so many people were asking, I thought to myself, well, here's an opportunity. You know, 25 people or so at this point are asking us, there's an opportunity. So I did an experiment, and I led a trip last September to India to an NGO called Vatsalya that gets kids off the streets into an orphanage, among other things. That's their main focus. And, you know, I marketed it, and I charged this. It was self-funded by the travelers, and, you know, I had never done anything like this before. I led trips around the world with other photographers, but I'd never set something up like this. Everybody thought I was nuts, and I was like, great, I'll do it anyway. But let me see if I can get together a group of people, they pay, and I set up the whole thing. Like, I also saw, you know, people are already traveling. I've gone to how many people's slideshows where they're like, here's me in front of the Taj Mahal, you know, and I thought, well, what if in that photo album was them in front of the Taj Mahal, but also like the equivalent of Caxton in India, and they could just say like one thing about Caxton, like, oh yeah, I met this guy named Caxton, da da da, then back over to the Taj Mahal. That listener would be affected. And then I thought, well, what happens if those people are giving their slideshows at their church, you know, blah, 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 me in front of the Taj Mahal, then Caxton, and back to the Taj Mahal. Something will happen. And then I thought, well, what if people put it all into their Facebook and into all this stuff, and something will happen. And we just saw in the last presentation, something will happen. It does happen, and it's happening right now. I'm at Gnomedex, you know. Me, this non-geek, is standing here on Gnomedex talking to you. So I did it. I led a tour, and I was now what? And so SalaamGarage was founded last fall. And so that was the plan. The plan was to get a group of people and do all that post-production, model everything after Age's knocking, get all these people to go to this NGO, do these projects, do this work. And I made a lot of mistakes, and I did a lot of good things, and I did a lot of things that I'll change. But it worked. You know, a lot of people showed up with all their cameras and everything and took pictures, and now it's slowly getting into Flickr and all their Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. So I'm just going to show you some of the stuff that they've done with the work. And so now you see what SalaamGarage is. That's basically me putting together these trips where you go to NGOs, and I work directly with the NGO on projects that the NGO initiates. Like, I don't step, you know, into a country and say, oh, I know what we should talk about. I said, no, I listen. You know, what is your story, and what do you want other people to know? Like, tell us what you want us to tell other people. And so that's what SalaamGarage is. The trips are like between 10, and India was 10 days. I'd probably make it longer next time because it's so far, but roughly going to be between 10 and 14 days. Guatemala is going to happen. It's just confirmed for next year. And so it's growing slowly, and now there's some people, there's other documentary photographers working with me. This was the first trip. The question mark is because there was an American who didn't, even though all the info was like, here's the link to get your visa, she didn't know you had to get a visa to go to India. So, I mean, that was a learning experience for her, and, you know, so she got stuck in London, and I'm sitting in Delhi, and she calls me at like 3 in the morning. She calls me in Delhi at 2 in the morning, like, oh, I don't have my visa. And I was like, but she'll never do that again. So I put a question mark there because I don't want to, I don't want to give her name out because she'd probably be embarrassed. So part of SalaamGarage is we do fun stuff like this. So it's pretty intimate too. Like I'm a documentary photographer. The last thing I want to do is do like what everybody else does. So this is our driver's house. We brought us to his aunt's house and we did this. This is the way I like to travel. So I set it up the way I like to travel. Go to some huge production, like it's like all child labor on the stage, like not. Literally, that's what it is. I mean, so that's Linda. She went on a trip. That was a lot of fun. Two kids. So then there was this. This was funny. Then we got to go see the SalaamGarage of Jaipur, which was kind of random.
What is she amazing about it, Linda? Who said that, Linda?
It was a funny thing.
Oh, I think on these kind of quick darts, I don't recommend the front seat for those weak of stomach. Yeah, and all of you that are feeling a little wobbly, stick to the back. I'm digging it.
We didn't hit anybody. That's really amazing. Or I wasn't driving. He didn't. Govind didn't hit anybody. So this is all that all this content from now on is the people that went on the trip. This is Vatsalya, which is the NGO, and since the exhibitions and since the press and all that stuff I'm about to show you, now they're linked up with Microsoft's giving thing. So like if the Microsoft employee gives $1, then Microsoft itself will give $1. And we've paid for a bunch of salaries. A bunch of bikes have been bought, and people know about Vatsalya. There's the front page of their website. And this is the participants' pictures. Those are the kids. These kids used to be homeless on the streets begging or worse, or child prostitutes. And something else that because I'd been traveling for so long because of my work doing documentary, I knew this, but the travelers didn't know that, when you give rupees to a kid on the street, that kid doesn't bring those rupees home to their parents. The kid actually runs over to a pimp and gives that money to a pimp. And that pimp might, give partial amount. If you give 10 rupees, maybe they'll give them a rupee, maybe. And so a lot of tourists don't know that. A lot of tourists don't know the layers of what's going on with when you think you're giving. And that's another thing so essentially when you give a beggar on the street, you're employing them to keep doing that. Like, it doesn't get them off the streets, it actually keeps them there. And when you give money to an NGO, it keeps it there. It's like an economic vote, right? So, and this is their exhibitions. The very first, and NPR showed up. So then all this crazy, then it just exploded. Then all of a sudden there's all this press, and that's Linda dancing. Those are her photos. And they're all amateurs. They're all amateur photographers. They're not professional photographers. And like I said, I don't think it makes a difference. I mean, they did just as much with their work that I've done with mine. And so then we got this press, a lot of press. Oh, there's something in the background. That's okay. And then there was a great Seattle Times one I didn't put. What was that? Oh, okay. And this is Angel's article. There's a slide missing, but there's a Seattle Times article that came out, or Seattle PI article that came out that was extraordinary and published all their work. It was a huge feature, and I'm not wooing myself because of the press. I'm actually wooing myself because it worked. The images and the stories are getting out there. It went to whatever the subscription is of Seattle Times, and it's had a really fantastic. It exploded. I'm just whoa, and I'm in this documentary now, and they're videotaping me as we speak. So here's the SalaamGarage Flickr pool, and then one of the women, she made a video for another organization with her pictures. As you can see, I'm new to Keynote, and that little thing keeps showing up everywhere. Weird. Okay. And then we gave presentations, and these are up on the videos are up on the presentations. Linda, the dancer, again, is talking about her work. And then the other guy like made this whole website about Vatsalia, one of the photographers, Conrad Chavez. And he did this whole thing about how to help and all that. And now I have a book coming out too. And so I called it Can I Come With You? Because I just thought it was appropriate. A publisher found out about this, and so now they're publishing my work, and it's all like focused on what can all of you do with taking pictures and writing and all that, because everybody here in this room has the potential to cause change and do this 5-minute warning. Got it. Okay. So this is what's coming up next, the new website, and thank you. So does anyone have any questions? Yep.
You said that when you were setting up You said that when you were setting up the first trip that you did some things right and some things wrong. Could you tell us what you did right or wrong so that we can learn from your mistakes if maybe we can do this ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. What I did right was the pre-production. It really helped that I had my career to back my integrity, to show up and be around kids who used to be child prostitutes, because a lot of NGOs are like, no, we're not going to give you access. Who are you and everything. So it really helped that I had my career to show, no, I'm actually legitimate and I've been doing this for a long time and I have references. And I did a lot of pre-production, like as much pre-production as possible. Like if you think it's overdoing it, it's definitely not, because half of everything is getting lost in translation, Be very clear. I was very clear with my communication. I didn't, just very clear and understand people are reading stuff in their third or fourth language, which is English. So, just be very concise and clear and no colloquialisms or, any of that. So I was very happy about the way that worked. What I would do differently is make sure that the group that's going is really committed to sharing the content when they get back. It's been, with some particular participants, it feels like a little bit of a struggle to get them motivated to get stuff onto Flickr and all that, because it's not their full-time job. Even though I have a step-by-step, I hand out PDFs and step-by-steps and I offer phone support and all that. So the next travelers, and there's a lot of people that want to go now because of all this press, I'll make sure that they're committed, and what I'll do on the next trip is meet up and say, okay, what is your plan? What are your goals? What are your deadlines? What are your milestones? Like, when do you plan on getting this stuff done? Like, when do you plan on getting stuff into Flickr? And like, when do you plan on putting stuff, and then partnering people so that they have accountability, rather than letting them loose and just saying, get this done. And I was lucky because a lot of them were in Seattle and I was able to be there and help them. But that's definitely a major thing that I'll do differently, is seeing that they're committed to getting that content out there. Right, yes?
Your work is amazing.
Thank you.
And I so wanted to donate to the the NGOs that you were talking about, and I was glad to see that there was a relationship with Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, have you thought about how you can, in addition to the content, how you might help some of the organizations, do fundraising?
Oh, well, the exhibitions, there are fundraisers that happen, and all of the participants have had fundraisers. And actually, one of the participants held a fundraiser for herself to go there, and then had a fundraiser when she came back. So basically, my job as a facilitator to put together the trips and tell them how I've done countless fundraisers for my own work and stuff like that, and I'm there to give them as much advice and information. And the people, all they have to do is step back in their community and show them pictures and tell them what they saw. It's all they have to do. Like what just happened on stage. It happens. It's like, so I hope, does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I was wondering, how do you feel that your work compares or contrasts to things that were done, like movies like Born into Brothels? Are you familiar?
Yes.
With, okay.
How do I think my work compares to Born into Brothels?
How does it compare or contrast to the efforts that are in movies like that? Which is, obviously, it's a documentary of this effort of
teaching kids to take photographs that then kind of fund them to get out of their situation?
I'm actually not teaching kids to take pictures. The people that go on the trips go and take pictures of the kids. So then that's how it compares. I think I'm not clear on your question, because I'm not teaching, I'm mentoring the people. Did I answer your question?
No, I mean in the sense of bringing attention to where these kids, where these people are.
Oh.
How do you see that your effort, basically, what is it that you're doing that's helping those kids in a similar way, I guess?
What am I doing? Well, I'm using the creation of content to help tell their story. And I'm helping facilitate the creation of content, intentional content, to help tell their story of people who otherwise don't feel like they exist, like Haxton. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, everybody.